A shrill cry cut through the quiet afternoon like a blade of panic, sharp enough to freeze every muscle in the biker's body. The little girl in the red dress ran barefoot across the asphalt, tears streaking down her dust-covered cheeks, her tiny hands trembling as she stumbled toward the group of bikers gathered beside their motorcycles. Her voice cracked as she screamed, "He's coming!" And for a split second, the world around her seemed to collapse into slow motion. The bikers weren't used to fear, especially not when it came from someone so small, so helpless, and so desperately in need of protection. That single moment, that single cry, would change everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of ordinary people stepping up when it matters most, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring more stories like this to life. The little girl practically crashed into the arms of the nearest biker, a tattooed man with a leather vest and a hardened face that softened instantly when he saw the terror in her eyes. She was shaking so violently that he had to steady her shoulders. Behind her, the street lay quiet under the golden evening sun, but her fear made the air feel colder, heavier. She looked like she had been running for a long time, like danger itself had chased her all the way there. The bikers exchanged concerned glances, their casual afternoon instantly shifting into alertness. These were men who had lived through rough roads and darker times, but something about a child crying out for help carved straight through years of thick skin. As she tried to catch her breath, her words spilled out in frantic fragments. She spoke of a man, someone big, angry, and frightening, who had been yelling at her mother back home. She said she'd been told to run, to find someone, anyone who could help. Her mother's trembling voice had pushed her out the back door, whispering for her to be brave just this once. That whisper became the fuel in her tiny legs as she sprinted through the neighborhood until she collided with the group of bikers who happened to be stopping for a short break. The more she spoke, the more their jaws tightened. The man she described wasn't a stranger. He was someone the community whispered about, someone whose temper had caused bruises and broken trust for years. These bikers had seen men like him before, and they'd never been the kind to look the other way. The girl's sobs slowly subsided as one biker offered her water, and another draped his leather vest over her shoulders like a shield. Her small fingers clutched the edges of the vest as though it were armor. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the pavement, but determination burned in the biker's eyes like headlights cutting through darkness. They didn't need to say anything to each other. The message was clear. A child had run to them for help, and that was all they needed to know. They prepared to ride out, engines rumbling like thunder building on the horizon. The little girl watched them with wide, fearful eyes, unsure of what would happen next. The biker who had held her earlier knelt down and rested a gloved hand on her shoulder, promising her silently with his presence that she was no longer alone. They brought her onto one of the bikes, settling her safely between two members who would ensure nothing touched her again. For a moment, she seemed confused. Was she safe? Was this real? But then the engines roared to life, and all hesitation melted away. Something inside her recognized that these strangers were her protectors now. As they rode toward her home, the world around them blurred into streaks of wind and rushing pavement. The bikers weren't just a group anymore. They were a storm, a force of nature that had chosen its target. When they arrived at the small house with peeling paint and a crooked fence, the sound of shouting spilled out into the street. The man towered over the girl's mother, rage distorting his face. But his voice faltered the moment the engines cut off. The bikers stood tall in a tight formation, their expressions carved with quiet fury and unwavering resolve. No weapons, no threats, just the unmistakable presence of men who refused to let harm go unanswered. The man's anger dissolved into fear the instant their eyes locked onto him. He stumbled back, muttering excuses, trying to escape the very danger he had once inflicted on others. But the bikers didn't need to chase him. One look was enough to send him scrambling away, leaving behind the shattered pieces of the family he had tormented. The mother collapsed into tears as her daughter ran into her arms, clutching her tightly. The bikers stood back, allowing them the space to reconnect, but their protective stance never wavered. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood about what had happened. People stepped out of their homes, some offering soft applause, others placing hands over their hearts. It wasn't just the rescue that moved them. It was the courage of a frightened child who had dared to run, and the unexpected compassion of bikers so often judged by appearances. They stayed with the family until authorities arrived, making sure everything was handled properly and that the mother and daughter were given the support they needed. Before leaving, the biker with the leather vest gently placed it over the girl's shoulders once more, letting her keep it as a reminder that she was safe, that she was strong, and that she had people willing to stand for her. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to help us keep creating meaningful content that reminds the world that kindness still exists. And before the ending, tell us in the comments, what part of this story moved you the most? In the days that followed, the little girl wore the vest often, even though it was far too big for her. To her, it wasn't clothing, it was courage. It was the memory of the day she ran crying for help and found an unexpected family ready to protect her. The bikers visited her from time to time, not out of duty, but out of genuine care. They became the silent guardians of her street, their presence a constant reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather.